I won't say everyone, I'll say all one.
All one. Mm.
Because that's what we point out, that there's only one. And everything is that. And that's all the manifestation is. Things. You're a thing. I'm a thing. What you're sitting on is a thing. The room you're in is a thing. The sky, the space, they're all things. But we haven't left it as that. We put labels or words on the things. And that's what discriminates them. And even the things are no things. Because they're just images or reflections, appearances like images or reflections in the mirror. So all these things are appearing in the emptiness. That's what the Buddha called a cognizing emptiness. That emptiness itself, vibrating or knowing, not thinking, but the pure intelligence vibrates. It gives that cognizing or knowing sensation or awareing. And that's doing it. And that's why I could say emptiness is form. All these forms, which are things, are emptiness. And that's what he turned around and said the other way. Emptiness is form. The form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So that is all there is to it. And that's not only said by the so-called Buddha, but by all the great traditions, somewhere along the line point to it, in essence. Hinduism, which is the one we point to now, call it Advaita, meaning non-duality. And they try to describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two. One without the other. Yes. Only the one. So they're saying the same thing. Christianity gives you three aspects: Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Not three different things, but the one essence again. Who else is there? Hebrews say, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. There is no one or no thing other than that." The Muslims will say there is no God but God. Allah is his name. They put a label on that one. That's all there is. Again. So it all comes back to the word, doesn't it?
Yes.
We're all using words and putting words on it. It tells you that in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. That's what began, when it all began. No Big Bang, or thousands of years ago, or time bound, but it began with the Word, with the language. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So they say, they call that, that's all that God is a word. So everything is with that word, those words. All things were made by him, by the Word. And there was nothing made that was made without the Word. So all this phenomenal manifestations, to discriminate it or say what it is, we've got to use words. Instead of seeing, as they say, the emptiness, it's no thing. Seeing no thing, that's another way they point about it in I don't know what it is, in one of the traditions. I think it might be the Zen ones or something like that. Yeah. Seeing no thing, yet it is seen. And that's true. Look around the room and what you're seeing is no thing until you put the words on. but it's not an homogeneous blob. You're seeing it seemingly separately, different patterns, shapes and forms. But until you put the label on it, what is it? So it's just a pure seeing. But we've got lost with the words. And we name, label and discriminate everything with the word. And we've taken ourselves to be the word, a person. I am this person. I am this individual, meaning I'm the separate person. But it's not separate, it's not divided, it's individual. And that you must recognise that all the words, you weren't born with any words. If you were born with words, you could be able to say, tell me when you were born. But if I ask you when you were born, when did you begin, you'll say, I was born. But you don't know anything about your birth. You don't know it until your parents told you were born on such and such a date. If they get down to it, to narrow it down a bit, to such and such a time, and such a place. But what do you know about it? Nothing at all. And you don't know anything about it for the next couple of years of your life until that capacity of reasoning develops in you and you started to learn words. And you've used words from then on. So every word you've ever spoken, or ever likely to speak, has been picked up with words, has been using words. Without the words, realise you're still seeing, you're still hearing, still breathing, still feeling, tasting, touching, smelling, but you're not discriminating any of it. That's just as it is. Seen as it is. What is? Unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Just as it is right here, right now, in this so-called presence awareness. The awareness without labelling the sensations that are going on at the pre-sense. Just pure seeing, pure hearing, pure tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, whatever. All in its totality and all in its undividedness, in its singularity. And that's one of the things I tell you, I think it's in the Dzogchen teaching. Let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. Be like an old man basking in the sun. It's a nice sunny morning this morning. If the the temperature's not so cold, it'd be nice to sit out and bask outside in the light of the sun. Nobody's ever sat in the sun. We say we sat in the sun, but nobody ever has. You'd soon frizzle up and die if you're sitting in the sun. The temperature of the sun is so great, it'll destroy you. But we sit in the sunlight. And we live in the light of spirit, if you like. The love light, they call it. The light of love. But we get the wrong idea on love too. And we treat it as the opposite of hate and get a wrong take on it. But love is a spontaneous, natural recognising of what you truly are. The resting in the uncontrived singularity, where everything is a pure joyousness, if you like. But that's a word we put on it, a label, which is not a sense of being well-being, sense of nothing wrong. So you can put those terms on it, but just pure sensation, pure feeling, pure knowing, existence, consciousness, bliss, nama rupa, the 5 factors of that. Well, or another way of putting it, being, knowing and loving to be. Anyone there that's not being right now? You say, no, I am being. I'm not wasing. If I was not being, I was. And I'm not becoming. But I am being. You know, that you can't negate it, can you? So you can't negate your existence. So is anybody unaware? No, I'm not unaware. I must be aware to know that I'm not unaware. Or another way from awareness, when it goes a little bit further, the consciousness comes upon awareness. Anyone who's unconscious? No. So if you're unconscious, you couldn't be aware, could you? You would be aware, but you couldn't recognise your awareness. And loving to be. Anyone who's not loving to be. Nobody would want to be out of it right now. It all depends how big a hangover you got and what disasters are happening in your life. You might get a poor me, a trauma and all the rest, and want to take yourself out. But that's not the natural state. Naturally, even if you wanted to be out, you know, you couldn't stop yourself breathing naturally. You'd be forced to take it. But you can take things that will kill you off, kill everything off. But nobody doesn't want to not be at the moment, so you're loving to be. So if you are that existence, you are that being, you are that consciousness, you are that knowing, and you are loving to be. But the other two factors, nama rupa. Nama is the name. What is your name? My name is so-and-so. I am Bob. You know, that's my name. That's the name that's put on me. What's the form? I am this body. I am this mind. So that's the name and form, body, mind. And they tell us in the scriptures, and when you investigate, you'll see for yourself it's true. The body, mind are Maya. They're illusion. They're an illusory appearance. They only seemingly so. And that's the problem. All this manifestation is an illusory appearance, like a dream. But you realise, I think the illusion is real. But when you realise the illusion is illusory, it has no existence whatsoever. But there's still that speaking, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, eating, doing all the seeming things, pattern, shapes and forms that these so-called human forms do. Just the same as out there in nature. The earth will continue to roll around the sun. The seasons will still come and go. The tides will continue to come in and out. Tsunamis, storms, droughts, floods, viruses, bacteria, plagues, viruses, sicknesses, illnesses, radiant health, and all the manifestation will continue to appear and express. But see, realise how it's appearing and expressing. Seemingly real and seemingly in the interrelated pairs of opposites. Could there be day without night, silence without sound, winter without summer, movement without stillness, in-breath without the out-breath, heart without expanding and contracting? All vibrating patterns of intelligence, energy. That's what I call it. I take that label God off because we could get confused with that word. See, I have all sorts of different people listen to this. Some of you might be out and out atheists. Some of you out and out agnostics. Some of you again might be out and out Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Jews, whatever, Buddhists. And whatever the label we put upon ourselves, that we take to be real. Just like we've got a good football team, we take that and we believe that. Nobody's going to throw us off that perch of belief in that team. But nobody's going to throw us out of these religious beliefs unless they're questioned and looked into. Questioned and looked into. And seeing all those great traditions, I'm not knocking them because I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not an atheist, I'm not an agnostic, I'm not a Muslim, not a Jew. I belong to none of them. But I have taken parts that have resonated with me out of each and every one of them and utilised because they work. And so I don't have to load myself down. It's like sorting out, finding a four-leaf clover in a crop of clover. You've got to search a long way, but you'll find it there if it's there. And the rest, what do? You take one, and they all look the same, but the one's got the four leaves on it. That's supposed to be the lucky one or the right one. And you throw the rest away. The same with this, but you don't discard them, or the others. You see the truth in them, but you'll see that truth is clothed in a lot of rubbish. Yeah. It's covered over, clothed in concepts. And you miss out on the truth. And that's what they call it in Buddhism, the great perfection. Or in other ways they put it, the absolute. It is the absolute truth. What's the absolute? Can you add anything to the absolute? No, it wouldn't be absolute. Can you take anything away? No, it wouldn't be absolute. Or the great perfection, they call it in Buddhism. Saying the same meaning, same thing. Can you add anything to the perfect? You can't. Can you take anything away from the perfect? And they tell you in one sentence there, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Awareness without any concepts. What is a concept? A concept is a word, a mental construct, a thought. That's all it is. And what's the word? Word is sound. What's sound? Vibration. Even if you're thinking silently, there's a subtle vibration. What's a vibration? A movement of energy. So it can all be broken down into a very, very subtle, somewhat of a movement. A throb, a pulsation, a spasm, what they call it in different things. Or what is it? Other terms they use for it too, I forget. But it's that, and it's that, a throb or a pulsation means it's spontaneous. It's not the throb that has its beginning, it's already ending. It's only not a full movement. If it was a full movement, it would have a beginning and an end. But this hasn't got a beginning. As you're taking an end, it's already going out again before it has any end on it. So the thinking is spontaneous. The thoughts are coming up spontaneously. But what do? We've taken ourselves to be this separate entity, this individual, and we latch onto the word and think the answer's in the mind, in this thinking, and try to keep it there. But we never ever get it. Because, again, what have we called it? We call this thinking process mind. And they say you've got to be mindful. That mean be full of mind? I think we are full of mind, which that's what we need to get rid of. We need to discard it. And empty the mind. And they call it a cognizing emptiness, and unborn mind, they give it a name. An unborn mind is a mind before the concepts have come onto it. A pure mind, just that pure, natural, spontaneous knowingness is there. And when you pause a thought, if you ask yourself what's wrong with right now, if you don't think about it, you need to pause the thought or go beyond the thought somehow or other. Let it go. Don't hang on to it. And in that letting go, what can you say without the thought? You realise you can't put the concepts, good, bad, pleasant, painful, onto it, and the things are still appearing, they haven't disappeared, because you're still seeing without the concepts. You're still hearing, you're still tasting, touching, smelling. The appearances are still happening. They're not being labelled or discriminated with any thought, but they're knowing what they are. They're knowing that they're not one homogeneous blob out there. You can see the different shapes and forms, and they're all appearing. They're all appearance only. And a phenomenal manifestation is what they label it. And your dictionary definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. And what appears to be, it's only seemingly so. It seems to be so. And in the seemingness, not very real. And this body seems to be very solid and substantial. The word seems to be very real, and the sounds coming out of our mouth. You know? And the concepts that come up, the thoughts, the feeling, the emotions, all vibrating patterns of that energy, from subtler to the subtle, very subtle thoughts, to a more or less subtle when it becomes the word, and the word goes back to the sound, which is not so subtle now with a sound, thought, and the feeling comes up, or the sensation, and the feeling we've labelled as anger or fear or jealousy or guilt. And energy of belief goes into them, and they seemingly become so. Instead of just being natural thought that's flowing naturally and effortlessly, now we become angry or feel like. It can happen in nature, but nature hasn't labelled it. When something happens and electricity comes together through the wind or whatever it is and forms electricity, there's thunder and lightning, flashes and lightning and duels, storms come up and things come up. But what's ever happened there? Seemingly happen, can cause floods and all the rest of it. But it's all really just that patterning, vibrating pattern of that intelligence energy, and it's all in a vibrating way. If it wasn't in the innate intelligence to form as water, those two gases, and to come down as rain, what would it be? If it came down just willy-nilly, what would it form? It couldn't. It would be a very funny old universe, wouldn't it? If none of the intelligence wasn't functioning through it, keeping it in order and patterning it. That's why I don't use the term God, I call it intelligence energy. Intelligence is knowing. I'm not talking about your intellects when I'm talking about intelligence. I'm look out there in nature. It's what we call the natural state, meaning as in nature. Nature's okay, isn't it? We might discriminate it and like one day when it's wet and not the other when it's home, but does day itself, the light itself, know anything about darkness or light? Or does it call it day and night? Does it call it winter or summer? Well, nature hasn't got any labels for it. It's just as it is. And if it's just as it is there a difference between light and darkness? When does light become dark? And when does dark become light? When does the sun cease to shine? It doesn't. It rolls around the earth and faces away from the earth, one part of it. The part we're in now is facing the sun. It's daylight here. Where some of you might be listening from, it might be dark over there when it's facing away from it. But it's not saying this is darkness, this is light, this is pleasant, this is plain, this is rain, this is water vapour, this is steam, or this is gas, H, this is hydrogen oxide. Not saying anything or dividing it, it's all going back to its true nature. And so that one has never become two. Like I use the term no one-ended stick. And whether the the stick is thin at one end and bent or crooked, and the other end's fat and straight and round and smooth, it's still the one stick. And whether it's raining or the sun shining and it's dry, it's still the one thing. Everything is the one that vibrates, patterns, shapes and forms, and as it's a vibration, it must vibrate into seemingly opposites. So you've got north, south, east and west. Go to the South Pole, try and take a couple of steps further past the South Pole, where would you be? You mightn't realise it, but you're immediately going north again. The same with the North Pole, you go to the North Pole, can you go any further north? You can't, you'd be going to the south. Where do they meet? And they tell you that beautifully when they say the equator. Where would they get that word from? Where it equates, where it's equilibrium. And that's where we need to recognise this dualistic vibration is going on. Be where it's equating, where it is necessary in its reference point, when it's self-centered, not the self-centered, not the ego, but where it's even. What do they call it?
Middle way. Middle way.
In the middle way, or non-dual. Yeah, in the middle way, in its centre. You're on a seesaw, you know, on one end of a seesaw. Get up on one end and you'll be high, the other end will be low. Where does it balance? The fulcrum is in the middle, yeah. So that's where it equals itself out. And in that equilibrium, the recognition comes much more easily that it's still only the one essence. In which other end of either way or which other end you're on. It's still the one essence. And you are that. That's what they call it. The Mahavakya, the great mantra they give you. I am that. We hear that. How many of us take notice of it? Oh, I heard it for years. Oh, yeah, that's all right, I'm that. I can say it, yeah, but never look into it and see what they're really saying. Until I got to someone who said it, I don't know how, why, or when, in a somewhat different way, that resonated here more than all the other times I'd heard it. Resonated. And I was able to see it. That resonation was a recognising. A recognising is that cognising emptiness we talked about earlier needs to be recognised, re-looked at, renewed, reminded. And that we think we are cognising the emptiness because we hear that cognising emptiness. The ing in it, we think we are cognising. But it's not, it's the emptiness itself that's doing the cognising. That innate cognising emptiness. Now, emptiness, just think it wouldn't be able to do anything. And the card is cognising, or knowing, or awareing, another term. And the statement, Buddha made the statement when he pointed that out, that's that cognising emptiness that's forming this manifestation. When he said that emptiness is form. Now, all these things that I pointed out before, everything that's appearing is a thing, and yet it's all empty. Because emptiness is form, I'm telling you. It's formed out of that emptiness, seeming emptiness. And he said it around the other way, he said the form, all these things again, pattern shapes, are nothing other than the emptiness. Now, you're sitting there as this person, or this human being, or this poor, miserable human being, which we think ourselves to be, all the rest of it. But what you are, all you are, is that form, that emptiness, which is forming the conceptual image and the appearance that's something other than that. So, know that form to be nothing other than that. I am that form. I am that absolute. I am that great perfection. I am that one self, the Atman. I am not the personal self. But I've taken it to be myself. And I put it down to me or mine. Now I think that's me or mine is the self. It's myself. And it's my thoughts. It's my feelings. It's my doing. And my disease. My unhappiness. My love. We've taken it away from its totality into this conceptual pattern, shape and form of a miserable human being, which put it out in this universe, look up from a few thousand feet away, look down the plain where you can't even see it, because it's less than a grain of sand on the beach from up there to us. And yet we think we're going to change it, alter the manifest, alter the world. And we've taken ourselves to be the doer. But we're not, as the person we can't, but relaxing into that pure beingness, that godliness, that absolute that you are, amazing things can happen. Wonderful, amazing and beautiful things will happen of their own self. Well, look at you, look at the body, shape and form. You might have a beautiful body, shape and form. You know, what formed it? Was there any part of the so-called you that did anything about it? But that innate intelligence, energy or life essence that was in your father and your mother was in the pattern before them, that is always that one essence that's appearing as everything. It was intelligence suffusing it, knew how to pattern that shape and form, brought you into existence. And you can call that God, if you like. But when you take God to be something separate and apart, that's where the problem comes in. Because then you've got to bow to him, pray to him, search to him, find him, and hope that he, and if he's in a good mood, will do, he or she, whichever you like to call it, will do something for you. Not realising it, but it's spontaneously happening right out there, right now, right where you are. It's breathing you, it's beating your heart, growing your hair and your fingernails, digesting your food. Enable that thought that's coming up to happen, blinking your eyes, rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, cause planets to implode, explode, galaxies to form, tides, everything that's going on in this manifestation. Wonderful pattern, shapes and forms of that amazing and wondrous essence which is no thing. Yet everything comes from that no thing. That's again the amazement of it. And the hugeness of it, the greatness of it, you know. Break it down to the minutest. Can you find a centre to the minutest part of it? Where's the space in the minutest part of it? It merges into space, doesn't it? And where's the, in the furthest part? What's the emptiness in it then? And the emptiness is which it appears in. It's emptiness that's doing it all. That is not forming the emptiness. I say that you are, the emptiness is forming everything. So you are that. So we ask you to investigate that and have a look for yourself. And see Kat's here in the background. She'd come into appearance in a minute. And she can say a few words. But if you've got any questions, any doubts, do what's been happening in the last few weeks. A lot of you are recognising it and understanding it and knowing it and putting it in different ways. And those that haven't or can't and have got doubts and still there, don't hesitate to question the doubts. It's the only way, investigation's the only way you can. But a lot of us are frightened or fearful of doing that. What will they think of me? If they think they will think I'm an idiot. Who cares? What anybody, and who are they? All the others. If there are others out there who think they are the theys, they will be on the wrong track too if they're not coming from the totality, the reality. So don't hesitate to ask your questions. That's the only way you can grasp it. I searched for years and years. And when I wouldn't ask questions, the Sargon had to sit me out the front and hammer me and knock out every concept or thought I ever had, even though I thought it was the most beautiful and truthful concept that had ever been understood. It still wasn't good enough. And all he was doing, it wasn't that I wasn't saying what was probably a correct and right thing, it was because I was knocking out any concepts that I might have, because it's non-conceptual awareness, leaving me in that presence awareness, this immediacy, this actuality. So away you go, get into it.
Yes, so hello everyone. I'll just check if it's we had a question yesterday that was John asked. He says, I'm truly grateful to Bob for continuing to share the message and want to help us. I can, because I thank him also, and I thank everyone who clicked that donation button. So I hope you will continue to share your understanding as it has been a light. Oh no, this was the message. As the Mahasamadhi of Nisargadatta is September 8th, could you ask Bob to speak about the first time he met Maharaj on a Facebook meeting? I don't think I ever heard that story. Mahasamadhi of, what is it? Is it the waking up from the dream?
No, that's his death.
That's the waking up from the dream. When you wake up to the dream, you're still alive, the dream still goes on, the body is there, other bodies are there, you awake to the dream, you know the dream is going on. But when you wake up from the dream, that's when the body is no more. We wake up from the dream every time we go to sleep or when we die. So Mahasamadhi of Nisargadatta in a couple of days. Can you say a few words of how did you meet him first time?
Well, I'd heard about him many times, didn't want to see him, but this time I was moved to see him. Something made me go there. I saw him, and that was enough.
But did you feel any special feeling or something? He was a smaller guy than you.
There was something about him, but you couldn't help loving. He was very open, very natural, and you can easily approachable. Not the same as some other so-called teachers who were useful in a lot of ways. But you had to line up and get in the queue or wait for days to be able to speak to them even.
Yeah.
And then you'd only get it second hand. But he was very, very approachable, and you couldn't help but love the man. And that's what all was necessary. Somehow or other, it's clarified a lot of things, and it kept clarifying, and it's still doing it today. Call it what you like, you know. But people said he was an angry man. But he wasn't an angry man at all. Far from it.
Passionate.
Yeah, very passionate, you say, very lovable, yeah. Very approachable.
Did you look up to him like to saint, savior, initially? No.
Where I was looking up in the early stages of the second, I was looking up to other gurus I'd been to, bowing to them and worshipping them, believing them. No. A lot of the other stuff had taken me through that, I think. I'd see. When I got there, I just saw him as I'd see anyone else, as I see people that Skype me sometimes. You can see in them there's a little bit more than just,
shining through.
Yeah, shining through. Than just the ordinary curiosity or just wanting to know. You can see that there's an earnestness there and a sincerity, yeah. I don't know, it's hard to express and can't express it. But just a recognising mainly. But I didn't know what I was recognising at the time. I didn't recognise my own natural state. Because I still... But the cognising emptiness was there, functioning. Yes.
Yeah, you want more details, John, you gotta give us a call. So we have a couple of nice comments. And of course a lot of nice, warm welcome messages.
Good.
And here, Amarnath. Word can't play with words, but appears to be so. It's beyond language and concepts, as nothing is happening, yet appears. Everything appears to be happening.
Yeah.
Everything appears to be happening.
Phenomenal. That's the word for that, is phenomenal appearance, yeah. And that's what it tells you in the finish of the In Sing Ming. You've probably all read that beautiful little Zen
from
saying, yeah.
Third Patriarch.
Yeah.
It's a couple of pages.
It says in the end, the words, the way is beyond language. In other words, saying it's beyond the words. Way is beyond language, for there's no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. Just meaning not only yesterday, tomorrow or today, but all other words as well. It's beyond the language.
It is, yeah.
Like you were when you came out of the womb. You had no language for the first couple of years of your life. You had no language. You could make sounds, but you didn't, till the capacity of reasoning developed in you at about 2.5, that's when you began learning words. And naturally, the nearest people you could learn words from were your parents fussing around you. And if they hadn't understood this, they could just, which most of them hadn't, or that most of us hadn't, they'll just teach you words. And you learn words like I, me, mine, myself, this, that, good, bad. You learn all these labels were words. And you might still believe in the words, but when you get to look at this stuff, you realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever liked to speak has been learned. No words you were born with, so it's not natural to you, the word. It's been something picked up along the way. And you realise also the word's not the real. Take the word water, drink it, if you think the word's real. Drink the word, swim in the word, drown in the word. Take the word fire, cook in it, eat yourself with it, wash it, burn yourself with it. So then look at the word I or me, the one that's got us in bondage. I or me. Who is I? I is just a word or a label. How did that come about, you know? What does I mean? It's an expression, a sound that we've given to this sense of presence. You're aware of being present, there's an awareness of presence with you right now, and it translates into sound, if you wants to translate into sound, I am. And everything comes from sound. All the words in the word and the noise in the word comes from sound. That's the basic sound they'll tell you in the scripture. Om, I am. We put it into a language, I am. And we haven't left it at I am. That sense of presence we had words, I'm Bob. And that's not good enough either. I'm Australian. I live in Australia. I'm a good fella. Well, I think I'm a good fella. A lot of people think I'm a bad fella. I'm unhappy. I'm sad, or I'm fearful. All the words, language you put on to that I thought. You can't do much with I or me, can you? I on its own is just like the figure one, just to strike down as a letter, I. So to add on it, to give it some seeming substance, independent nature, we add on to it words. And those words are not the thing. So I formed a conceptual image of what I believe myself to be. And that conceptual image we call the ego, or the self-centre. Because the self-centre or the ego is what everything is related to. To add on to those words, we related to this conceptual image we got. It's I or me. So all our problems are problems of relationship. And relationship implies two. Duality. Me and the other. And we talk about non-duality. And in non-duality, there can't be absolutely no duality in non-duality. Just the same as while you're in duality, there is no non-duality. They're both the one and both the same stick, which we've seemingly divided with concepts. But go take them back to their original nature, they're just the one essence. And as Shakespeare pointed out, there's neither good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And this vibrating patterning function we call thinking is dividing it all with the words. And the Sagata tells us the same thing, but he uses different words. Nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination. Of course, no thing can trouble you. Yeah. But we imagine that it does. We call it things and blow with the words and take it to be things. Fear, anger, guilt, shame, remorse. And we're troubled by those things. And in imagination, that's another word. Break that word to image in. What does image mean? We're creating mental pictures. Or got a photo on the wall or a drawing. That is an image. And so in imagination, we're imagining all these things, these thoughts and feelings and things in our mind. And that goes for the whole manifestation, which is no thing, has now become things. But with things, you can't say it's all the one thing out because we discriminate and say that's the tree, that's the house, that's the window in the house, that's the flower, that's the sky, that's space. We divide it up with the words, make it some theming thing. Now, can there be something in no thing? As I say, can something come from it? There can't be. Can be no thing if it didn't form it into something. So it'll be either it is or you can't say it is, you can't say it isn't. Just like the image in the mirror. You see your reflection or image in the mirror. There's my reflection. I can see it in the mirror. If I go up and try and grab it, what will I grab? The glass. But it's still appearing in there, somewhere in the glass. So I can't say it's something. So if I can't say it's something, it's still appearing, so I can't say it's nothing. So it's just as it is, and that goes for everything. You can't say all this manifestation is no thing. You know it as really no thing. But either you can't say it's everything either, and it's everything also. So it's everything and the no thing. Yeah. Neither one nor the other. Just what is. And I and you and everything else, I am that. Am is not wasing or will be. I aming is right now. Okay.
There is another sharing from Amarnath. Waking state equals dream, subjective conceptual awareness. Waking without waker, dreaming without dreamer, non-conceptual awareness, absolute awareness, awareness of awareness.
Yeah. We put that label states on it. How many states are there in non-duality? And they say, it's very well good what she's saying there.
It's he. It is a he.
He,
yes.
It's excellent, but I mean, they're trying to describe the indescribable.
Yes.
That's where we get lost. The description can never be described. The map is never the territory. But to point out to some people, you probably need to describe, which is good. And a good close description, you know.
Yeah, yes, beautiful. And then pointing out to the, the no dreamer, no waker.
Yeah.
It's just the process, the ing, the waking, the dreaming, the awareing. And yes, no subject-object division in it. It works perfectly well without that artificial division created by the mind, by duality.
Yeah.
There is another one from Amarnath. Self without selves, me and mine or die, too. And dear Bob and Kat, thanks for your hammering without hammer. Yeah.
Let the throb penetrate, the vibration, the resonation, if it resonates.
Yes.
If it resonates with you, that means that same essence inside you is vibrating to it. Like they say, if you've got a guitar in one room, around the corner you've got another one, you start strumming the strings, the other one will start vibrating. Something like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
Might need to be in the same room to hear it better, but yes. Now we have a question from Theodore. How can someone know who is the right guru or the right practice to follow? That's Theodore from Orlando.
Well, that's what resonates, what you are drawn to. See, to look for a guru in the first place, you must have heard about him, read about him, and did him or she, or seen about him somewhere. And something that they've said or say might draw you to him. It might not. They might like what's being said, it'll resonate a little bit to draw to him. When the Muktananda came out here years ago, I'd been following the Maharishi before that and seen him when he came out and somebody other. But there was a photo of him in the newspaper advertising that he was coming, sitting on the stump with his legs crossed. And something about that photo says, I've got to go and see this guy. And it took me there. And I spent several years with him and till I moved on from there. He didn't move me on, but I was moved on, drawn to Nisargadatta, who I didn't want to go and see either. Yeah. But it took me from the Maharishi, and it took me, and see, it's amazing, something resonates and draws you to different things. See, I was a hopeless alcoholic, and the 12 steps on the wall of a room and people in it, resonating with it and talking about it, dragged me out of that. And that dragged me onto the spiritual, where I didn't believe in any spiritual path. So it all happens.
Yeah, it all happens. The crucial part is life does it.
But the thing is, before that, when I saw those 12 steps on the wall and talked about a God, as we understood him, I didn't believe in any good, didn't want to. But there again, it made me. When I went down again and done it, it made me. And I thought, well, that was the chink in the armour. Well, maybe there is. A little maybe was enough chink in the armour to open me up to look further, where I'd been, my mind was closed against it. Where are you going to get with a closed mind? Nowhere. Be open. As I say, be utterly, as they tell you in the Buddhist scriptures, be utterly awake, with the 5 senses wide open, or the 6 senses, whichever you like, where you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, naturally, spontaneously living. That's going on all the time. But we don't let it be open to it. Well, one will come up, it might be a feeling or a sad thought or something like that, or an anger or a fear. We'll fixate on that to the exclusion of all the others. So we're not wide open. So we've shut ourselves off from that spiritual. Be utterly awake with the 5 senses wide open, and be utterly open with unfixated awareness, where you're not fixating on it. So if something comes up and you might be angry, and something comes up, you might see it, will take you out of the anger. Or something that wasn't going on before will take you into the anger. But be open, but it'll move on. Because there's nothing static or stitched there anywhere. It's constantly transient. But while we fixate on it, we're not wide open to life. We're closed off to it. So be utterly open with unfixated awareness. And it'll take you where you've got to go. And it's not very far.
Yes, so that's really a good news, that this is not you who has to choose the guru and who has to know which one and who has to make that decisions, because that would be a heavy responsibility, because if you get it wrong, you screw your life. No, fortunately, you're not the doer. life will take you where it takes you. Automatically, life will attract you to a right place, and you can't get it wrong, because you not getting it wrong. Life can't get it wrong either, because it will just change the course and it will see different landscapes. So it isn't that the decision can be made wrong and the time can be wasted. No, because along that different path is a different experiencing, and it takes you different way. So it really is about being open to life, trusting life, and completely having faith that life will take you where it takes you, when it takes you, the way it takes you. Is not really up to you. It's like, one could call it grace, in a want for a better word, but it really is that movement from within, is that omnipotence that moves the planet around the sun, that moves the heart to expand and contract. The same omnipotence moves you to one place or another, the same guru or different practice or different. It's just as soon as you trust that life and give credit where credit is due, you're completely innocent and absoluted from all the possibility of getting it wrong or making mistake.
Yeah, John Wheeler put it beautifully in a couple of words in a song he wrote. What you are seeking is not very far. Presence awareness, you are what you already are. So there it is.
Yes.
Already are that.
Yes.
Not very far away at all. So
that was actually a song that he wrote for you, and he quoted your words.
But as I say, it's already here and now. That's it's the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah, but if the guide is required or the mentor is required, life will arrange for it. If it's not, life will not.
And that's the thing. The very idea we're seekers, we're giving ourselves a problem. Seekers goes on a journey.
Yeah.
And if you already are that, you don't have to go on a journey, because every journey begins with a 1,000 miles journey will start with a single step. So we say start with a single step that you're already that. And then all you've got to do is discard, instead of going out sitting on a long journey and getting rid of this on the way or that on the way and accumulating more as you go along. Discard everything as it comes up. Stay in that presence awareness.
Yeah, that's the crucial point. If life takes you to a place or to a practice or to a guru, that's just part of the appearance, because the recognition is only happening now, not when the guru will arrive, not when the practice will end. It's only now. There is no will in it. It's just that instant moment. And if that instant moment you see that there is a being underlying the thinking, that's awakening. And if you don't, the being is still there. It doesn't really care. And there is a Father's Day in Australia, and Jane says, "Happy Father's Day, Bob. Thank you for being a father to me for 36 years, for the love and support you have always shown. You pointed me to the truth of my own being and took me to the place where no more question arises. What a gift. I love you so much."
Beautiful.
And Jesse, all unfolds as it will. No individual doer exists. Look at nature, as Bob says. Trees growing, birds flying. Miraculous.
Beautiful.
God, intuitively I feel that thoughts are illusory, and whatever the illusory me is thinking about to get it is illusory too.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah, and that intuition is the still small voice that you follow. Amarnath, don't fight with doubt. Go to the place of doubtless self. That's a quote from Nisargadatta.
Yeah.
Yeah, arguing with doubt is just another thought fighting with thought. Doubt is a thought, that's all it is. It may have some emotional residue with it, but it's still just a passing phenomena. It's just an appearance. You are already that, and then the voice or the image says, "No, you're worthless, or you're incomplete, or no, I don't understand it, or oh, I only get it intellectually." That is just the thought form. It comes and goes. Before that thought came into the horizon, you are. After it's gone, you are. This you are, or this I am, is what is worthy of attention, not the passing cloud. Even if the passing cloud, a doubt is particularly potent because it feeds of our survival fears. Like, oh no, what if the doubt is true? And then you fear, and in the fear, all the triggers come. But yeah, just see it for what it is. It only has the power when you believe it. Deny the belief, and you see the passing cloud. Mukti. You can hammer on a bit about rejection. I know it is a concept, and that there is me and other in order for this concept, yet it seems to whisper, though, as a fear of this vessel, this body-mind, and it is a core human fear akin to death, I guess. Yeah, fear of rejection, it is core.
Well, as I was saying, look at the opposites, acceptance, rejection. Move up the scale a bit till you get in the equilibrium into the centre. You're neither accepting or rejecting, seeing it as it is.
Yeah, the fear of being rejected is like if you move back 30 or 40,000 years, where humans lived in a small villages or tribes, and somebody was to be rejected from the society, that meant death. So this sort of a core survival instinct translates in the narrative as fear of rejection. If nobody likes me, I'm dead, or I'm worthless, or I'm failure. But it still requires a thought. It still requires mental image, because the pure fear doesn't translate as a thought. It is just a vibration. So coming back, taking the label off, and coming back to that raw sensation without calling it anything is one way to actually offload that tension in the body. Just giving it non-judgmental, impersonal sort of attention, light of consciousness. And another way, yes, just see the both opposites. They like me, they don't like me. That's it, the two ends of the same stick. They will appear throughout life, just like day and night and summer and winter. And yeah, just perceive them the same way as day and night and summer and winter.
Can anything be separated in space, any other things?
Yeah.
And if acceptance wasn't there, could there be rejection? If rejection wasn't there, could there be acceptance? The seeming division is like the image in the mirror. You can't say it's not there, but you can't say it is there.
And it is also, it can be boiled down to the pain-pleasure thing. If people admire you or respect you or like you, that's pleasure. If they don't, that's displeasure. And yeah, they bound to show up, but there doesn't have to be a suffering. And I remember that I recognized the fear of rejection. I used to recognize as the core of my being. I used to recognize that I wasn't afraid of dying, but fear of rejection was my greatest fear, and that paralyzed me for a lifetime. For over 40 years, made me a person who was so shy that wouldn't speak up ever. I was 3 years coming for Bob's meeting, and he didn't even see me there because I never had the voice. I was too shy, fearing rejection, or fearing that I superimpose myself. And that fear completely vanished because there is no one there to be rejected. If there are people, and trust me, sitting here next to Bob caused a lot of hatred and bullying from people who actually hoped for this position for themselves and for other reasons. And it just goes through, it doesn't touch anything because it's not personal. Whoever rejects you, they reject themselves because there is only one. Also, whoever rejects you doesn't really reject you, but he or she rejects the concept they hold about you. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They have an idea of you, and they present that idea in some ridiculous way, like those guys.
It all depends on the situation too. But mainly, like most of the other problems, is when it's applied to the male-female patterning or the human patterning. But how many times have you been looking for a job and you've been rejected a dozen times? Mm-hmm. And then you've got the best job you ever got afterwards, you see, when you finally get one. So those rejections in a lot of cases can be quite, appropriate. But we don't like to be rejected as these human forms, but you can't be, because there's not one of them can be taken outside of space.
And it's always impersonal. It's even like you play the lottery and you don't win. That's sort of a way, in a way, your ticket got rejected, along with 500,000 others. It is the concept, the idea that this is personal. They hate me, but they can't, because you can't even know yourself, because you are yourself, less alone anyone else. So any form of rejection is really completely impersonal. And Jane, all desires, fears, etc. are related to self-center, and all conflict is in relationship, desire, fear, pleasure, pain, yesterday, tomorrow, the pairs of opposite. The power brought you here is the Guru. Mysterious power is your Guru, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. That's Amarnath. And Bill, I too was attracted to Muktananda through a photo, and it also led me to meet you, Bob, in 1974. Soham. Jane, who is rejected? The image you have about yourself that can only exist in a memory, and then that memory is anticipated and imagined into a supposed future, and creates fear and anticipation of missing out in a fictitious time, which is also a concept. What is wrong with right now if you don't think about it? Cool. And now, Heyman, ever since I lost hope, I feel much better. Those who rejected me are the most honest people related to me. Yeah. Hope is hope. How you say? Hope and fear are dancing partners. Yeah, they all relate to future.
Two greatest problems we got.
Yes, they all about future. Without hope, there is just this moment. And yeah, the most honest people related to me. Yeah, at least they honest to the concepts that they have about you. They rejected their own projection, which is fair enough. They actually tell you more about them than about you by rejection. And Jesse, glad you ended up in that chair, Kat. You are perfect. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, I don't think he would prefer that. Yeah, I think it is really. I mean, not just being in this chair, but actually being in this house and in this life. I have to humbly admit that life has got it absolutely perfectly. We were actually joking that if that person who wanted to sit here, who is over 20 years older than me, she wouldn't grab Bob's scooter and dump it to the tram to take him for a trip, or anyone other his age wouldn't be able to set up the Zoom sessions or anything. Yeah, life has got it right. Bowing down to life and taking up the nice word. Thank you. Amarnath.
Was that Taz there?
Yes, Taz is watching. He's not commenting. It's just Amarnath. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi said, "See, the fun of everyone is speaking of their learned ignorance concepts." Yeah, it is indeed a fun of seeing everyone expressing their own ignorance learns concepts. Yeah. The right state of mind is I don't know. That is the humble and correct and honest state of mind. The one thing you only know, the fact of your being.
Well, of course, I don't know, but there is a knowing that I don't know. That knowing is the actual intelligence energy.
That's right. Yeah, what you know is learned, is parroted after others from the books or from the language or from parents. But one thing that can be known directly is the essence of your own presence, the being. And yeah, we don't know anything, but that one thing we are talking about. Hope and fear are dancing partners. Shishagari says, yeah, it is. And Tanya, the me is a learned concept. Totally. Yeah, it is also a translation of that innate sense of presence, but it is that translation is using a word that we learn. It sounds completely differently in other languages, and this is where we are for now. And we have a few more minutes, so. Waiting for the input. We have Taz. Hello, dear Bob. Thanks for asking after me. That's the best Father's gift ever. I'm getting ready to go to my sister's for Father's Day lunch, but I'm listening to you. Love you.
Love you, Taz.
God, some not only reject but say they love you and want to destroy you and get pleasure acting that way. Yeah, that's how it appears also. Yeah, I've seen parents thinking that they are doing good for their children and beating them up to the point that children would end up imprisoned or in other destitute states. The belief was the power behind the behavior, which was, well, as Nisargadatta says, everything is love. It's just love can be quite misguided if the love is for the me and the mine, if the love is selfish. It's for the me and the mine. The love doesn't envelop and embrace the rest of the universe. The love is not unconditional. So people who, because this is what God says, who, and I think Heyman is also experiencing it, some sort of a misguided love which rejects and which judges and which tries to destroy. The one important thing is it is still the same one power, it is still the same force, the same love or the same life. It is life behind it, life expressing through the pattern. If life expresses through the musical instrument that is not tuned, it will come as the not that pretty sound. And everyone is tuned in particular way. And the life is the one that made the tuning. Life is the one who creates a psychopath. The life is the one who creates the person who is selfish. It's really only life that is the only doer. And that life is what you are. So it is on the deepest level. It is you yourself playing that game of being a dance on one side and on the other, rejecting and being rejected, loving and being loved. If you transcend that pairs of dualities, then you see that rejection and the love as equal, day and night as equal, and there is nothing wrong anymore. In the play there will be pain, pleasure. In the dream there will be winter and summer. But what you are is all the stage, all the actors, the winter and the summer, the pleasure and the pain, and the one who receives it, and the movement between them. And most of all, the movement between them, the ing, the functioning, the hating, the rejecting, the loving. And that's the freedom, because then you don't reject the rejection. Then you're not disappointed with the pain, and you're not unhappy about unhappiness. There is no overlay of this personal agenda on top of whatever is appeared. Then you are in a place where you appreciate and love unconditionally even your enemies, even people who actually present some less pleasurable feelings and sensations and emotions and stories in the whole play. And then would the drama be that interesting if there was no villains in it? There has to be some sort of duality for the show to go on, for the story to be juicy. It's just the freedom can be there regardless of, of the family that rejects you, or people who actually report some untruths. Is all life. Perfectly said, Kat. Joe says, thank you. And Amarnath, thanks for revealing the life script, play, actors, and behind scene a play. And thank you, Bob and Kat, for living in the love and light. That is our common constant self. Thank you. And now, Rohan, thank you, Bob, for your relentless, uncompromising pointing at what is. Hope you have a great Father's Day.
Thank you, Rohan.
That's Heyman. Dear Kat, none of those what you said are in my current experiencing, simply because of my ability to not holding on to anything. That is absolutely wonderful.
Who was that?
Heyman.
Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's the way.
Just let it pass through, yeah.
Let it pass through, absolutely.
Unfixated awareness.
Yes. Yes, that's...
No cloud stitched over the sun. No thoughts stitched in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, they have two analogies. One is walking on the razor's edge. I think that's a Muslim analogy. The Sufi is walking on the razor's edge, where it doesn't fall to the right or to the left, doesn't fall for the future or the past, or it's just in the immediacy. And another one being just open as a sky, like a sky, is nothing touches. Sky is empty, it's an emptiness, so everything flows through. And even if some sort of uneasiness or disappointment flows through it, that's just another cloud. And I'm not saying this is your case, because you said it is not, which is wonderful. And yes, happy Father's Day, Joe.
Good. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. And yes, that is first thank you message coming. So I think we can wrap it up.
Okay.
Yes. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
All one. Thank you, all one.
Thank you, all one. Thank you, only one.
Only one, yes. One and only.
And the one love is emanating, expressing through each and every one of that one.
Of that all one. Yes.
No division, no separation.
Yeah, you get more of the Happy Father's Day wishes.
Thank you.
Yeah.